Tonight we're going to look at one of my favorite games that I played from 2017 in the Cons International Chess Tournament versus the Indian prodigy Gukesh. And this was round one, and the pairings were put up 5 minutes before the game. So in Gukesh's defense, he had no idea what I was going to play, who I was. And that's very fun. The first round, you have no idea what's going to happen. It's very spontaneous. And anything goes, basically. So here we go. I played e4. Gukesh played c5. And of course, it's the first round. Wanted to have a good time. So I played my favorite Morra gambit, 2d4. C takes d4, c3. And as an 11-year-old boy, he had no fear. And he played d takes c3. A good move, a principled move, but you really need to know what you're doing in this position. Because after knight takes c3, I would say we have my favorite position in chess. Morra gambit appears, and you can see that all of white's pieces can come out in a very free position, whereas black has difficulty developing. So white has given up a pawn, but in return he has a tremendous compensation and tremendous attacking chances. So Gukesh played normal knight c6, knight f3 for me, e6, bishop c4. He's just trying to get out his pieces. There are many moves he could play here. And he wanted to go with the system with knight to e7, but he played a6 first. He plays knight e7, then I could play bishop g5, and you have to break this pin. You have to be very careful, because if you play h6 here, then I could hit you with the very tricky knight b5, threatening a smothered mate. And if h takes g5, knight d6 would be an instant checkmate. And of course, you cannot break the pin and guard d6, because then you would lose your queen. So that's a trick in this position. So instead of playing knight g7, Gukesh played a6. Good move. I castled. And now he played knight ge7. The idea is to grip the dark squares with knight to g6, maybe then play bishop e7, d6, and castle, and get a good game. And the Morra gambit, white often wants to play queen e2 and rook d1, and go pin this queen, but of course after e5 won't really work in this position. Really works better with the knight on f6, because then you have a target to hit the knight. But on g6, that d-file pressure is basically neutralized. So that's what black wants in this position after knight to ge7. So here I played the normal idea in this position to get compensation for white. Bishop to g5, again pinning the queen, and if he wants to finish his development, he needs to move that knight so he can get castled. So the only way to do that, other than moving the queen, which could also have problems, is to play h6 or f6. Both of these moves weaken the black king in the future, and white might be able to attack somehow and exploit those moves. In this case, Gukesh played f6, main move. Of course, it breaks the pin, but the drawback is it weakens the king side tremendously. This bishop has more scope. And after bishop e3, much better move than bishop h4, because then black gains time with knight g6 hitting the bishop. After bishop e3, knight g6, white has some decisions to make. The old plan here was to just play knight to d4, and sort of like an open Sicilian, put your knight in the center, and then go for f4, f5, and break open this formation before black can get castled. And that's an okay move, knight to d4. But about 10 years ago, I was studying this position deeply and came up with the idea, a very subtle move, bishop to b3. And it seems like it does nothing, a very innocent-looking move, but it has a lot of venom. Because now, black simply plays bishop to e7, then I play the very subtle move knight to a4, and I've won many games in blitz versus even titled players. After b5, you checkmate the queen with bishop to b6, and the queen is trapped. And just out of nowhere, you win the queen like that. So after bishop to e7, black would have to just castle, giving the queen an escape square after bishop b6, queen e8. But white can get a bind with knight to b6, and then rook to b8. And a lot of this is discussed in my book, Mayhem and the Morra. And if you want to check that out, you can. But this game was played after the book was published, but followed the analysis in the book. And after bishop to b3, Gukesh instead played exactly what Loke Van Willy played in this position, b5. But again, since it was the first round, he hadn't had a chance to check the database and see that game. So he fell into this crazy position, one of the craziest positions in all of the Morra Gambit, and I would say in all of chess, really. He played b5. And it looks like a good move. Black stops the knight a4 plan. But again, Black is tremendously behind in development. As you can see, he only has 2 pieces out. White has 5, and it's White's move. Again, the normal plan, knight d4, is possible. And after bishop to b7, I remember analyzing, before I found the idea from the game, knight takes c6. You can't take with the pawn because then bishop takes e6. Bishop takes c6, and then f4. Idea is to play f5. And if he plays b4, a prelude to the game, we can now sacrifice with knight takes d5 with authority, and Black's position is pretty much lost. After e takes d5, e takes d5, and White is down a piece, but as you can see, he has tremendous attacking chances. You can check that on your own to see that really there is no way out for Black after rook to e1, and you know, when the bishop moves, maybe rook to e1, and then d6 is threatened, bishop b6 check is threatened, hitting the king and the queen. So that position is a disaster. But knight d4 is one possibility, but it's not the most forcing. So then I realized maybe you might just want to play the wild move knight d5 yourself. Does it work? Just giving a knight unprovoked. Usually in the Open Sicilian and Morra Gambit, when you play knight d5, you want to wait for them to play b4 first, then knight d5. But here, because you're so ahead in development, and he's played f6, you go for knight d5. And if he takes this, then the whole diagonal is weakened for him. Of course, if he plays rook to b8 and leaves the knight there, then you can slowly increase the threats in this position. Play rook c1, maybe rook e1. You really can't leave that knight there forever. And Black is probably toasted in this position as well. So after knight d5, Gukesh quickly grabbed on d5 like most people do. I mean, this move looks totally ridiculous. You're just giving up a piece. How could White have enough? First he's given a pawn on c3, move 3. Now he's given a knight. It must be crazy. Knight d5, e takes d5, e takes d5. Of course, if knight a5, rook to e1, crushing. Again, discovery, bishop b6. If bishop e7, d6, and just totally destroyed this position. He can't castle because the bishop is stopping the king's path. And so instead, knight e5 was played, which is normal. Still following my Van Willy game from 2011, which I'll put in the comments section. Knight ce5, d6 exclaim. Now you can see the king will never castle. This bishop is totally shut in. The rook is shut in behind the plant here. And you could just see that Black has no moves. Rook e1 is coming, queen d5 is coming, mates, many threats. So he has to play bishop to b7, and now knight takes e5. Again, if he plays knight takes e5, we have the simple rook to e1. Many people tried to make this work, maybe queen b8 in this position, but now I hit him with bishop to c5 with massive threats, in particular just rook takes e5, the queen h5 check, maybe if king d8, bishop b6 check, king c8, and queen e8 mate. So that doesn't work. And so instead of, go back here, after knight takes e5, Gukesh, as an 11-year-old, I mean, this has got to be, it's hard for any age to play this position. I can't imagine how difficult it is. He's never seen this position before. So credit to him. He played very well this game. After f takes e5, now, if you look at this position, you have to keep generating threats. So you want to open up the king here, and you want to bring more pieces into the attack. So I played f4. Again, still the Van Willy game. And I've had some players play e4 in this position. You can just play f5 and go in for a checkmate with queen h5. Van Willy happened to play queen f6, and you can look at that game in the comments section. Ended with f takes e5, queen takes e5, and now the unbelievable sacrifice bishop g5. You guys could check to see why that works. And so after f4, the logical move is what Gukesh played, just to take the pawn. But if you take with the knight, there are a number of wins. You could play rook takes f4, e takes f4, queen h5 check, and queen e5, winning everything. Or just the magical sacrifice queen h5 check. And when knight takes h5, just a very elegant mate, bishop to f7, checkmating with the bishop, rook, and pawn. Definitely an economical mate. So, after f4, Gukesh played e takes f4, and now I played the prepared sacrifice rook to e1, still following the analysis from the book, and he has no choice but to take the second piece. So now after rook takes e3 check, he's up 2 pieces, but he has to give 1 away. And of course he doesn't want to block with the knight because then his pieces fall further behind. So instead he could play bishop to e7, which he did. And the idea is to now get his king out somehow. Obviously he'll never be able to castle short in this position, but maybe he can castle long with queen to b6. And this is the idea, pinning the rook and then escaping with castle long, and he'll have material advantage in that position. So it's not easy to proceed with the attack here. That is why you have to be accurate, and you have to increase the pressure. You want to bring this rook into the game and play the centralizing move, queen to d4, controlling the entire board and bringing this rook into the 4 with rook a e1. And black is hard-pressed to find a defense here. There are many threats. In particular, just rook a e1, rook takes e7 is enough. If queen a5, you could even just play d takes e7. And there are many lines. Knight takes e7. And even rook takes e7 here. King takes c7. Queen takes g7, which should lead to a decisive attack, even if king g6, queen g3. King c6, rook c1, king b6, even queen e3 or queen f2 is mate. So he had to find a defense here on the fly, which is, well, almost impossible to do. And so he played what I think is a very creative move and a very good chance for him. This is the position. He played queen to b8. A very, very tricky move. And the idea is to play queen to a7 to work this pin, then castle long, and my rook will be paralyzed. Of course, if I trade queens, I'm down too much material. So it looks like queen b8 is just a winning defense, beautiful defense. Queen b8, and after d takes e7, well, Gukesh played is playing queen a7, really with childlike innocence, and it's well, it's something that I had analyzed because you have to, and it looks like it's winning for black. It looks like there are no chances. Obviously, queen takes a7, you're down a piece. If you play rook f1, a beautiful queen sacrifice, obviously not queen takes d4 because bishop f7 mate. You can just play knight takes e7, and you can't really sacrifice with this rook, rook takes e7, king e7, because then the queen is pinned, so you can't really use your pieces in that position. And when teaching this position, I've had many students play rook f1, and then they lost after queen to a7. So he played d takes e7, and he played queen to a7. And so what is the winning move here? And it looks hopeless for white, but white has a crushing blow which makes this entire variation work like clockwork, really. One of the most fantastic chain of combinations that I've ever seen, and really makes this variation special. And so I played, again from the book, bishop to f7 double exclam. He has to play king takes f7, and now the extreme distraction e8 equals queen. Don't have an extra queen, but that's a queen. FIDE rules say you have to promote to a queen before hitting your clock, but you don't have to do that in a video. So this is e8 equals queen, check. If he takes with the rook, then I could take this queen. So he has to take with this rook. And then a rook f1 check. Knight f4 is not going to work. So he's got to play king to g8. And then rook takes e8 check. Rook takes e8. And then, of course, I play queen takes a7. And he could resign here, but he played on admirably. And, well, now we're out of the book. And I got to play. But fortunately for me, I have an extra queen to work with. So I think that's a big enough head start to win this game. But the get to play this combination in a tournament is really a special feeling. So he played bishop c6, queen takes a6, and the rest of the game is pretty easy. h6, queen a5, played rook e2, trying to get a miracle. Just rook f2, trading off pieces. When you have a large material advantage, you just want to trade off and make things simple. Rook f2, rook back to e6, and queen c3. Simple chess. Many moves win. Just word of caution, you just don't want to have any back rank tricks, so at some point you could always play h3 as well. And he played rook e4, queen d2, knight e5, rook to e2. Again, I just want to trade off the pieces. Knight c4, queen to d1, and of course, with knight e3, I have queen to d3, pinning and winning. So we played rook f4, and now the finishing combination. A rook and a queen are a great attacking combination. So rook to e8 check. King h7 won't work, but he went for king f7, and now could try queen e2. Going for queen e7, but first weaken the king some more, play queen to h5 check, g6, and now queen e2, and he doesn't have this escape square for his king, threatening queen e7 mate. So here Gukesh resigned. So I hope everyone enjoyed this game, and look forward to showing you some more soon.